incoming coverage of the 2011 AT&T American Cup, the most important international gymnastics competition held every year on American soil. The tannins in the St. Johns River actually make it look black as it flows north through the city of Jacksonville, Florida's largest city, on the state's east coast, about 25 miles south of the border with Georgia. We are inside the Veterans Memorial Arena. 8 women, 8 men, representing a variety of countries. The United States, of course. I'm Al Trautwig, along with Olympic gold medalists Tim Daggett, LP Schlegel, and Andrea Joyce, as you look in on Aliya Mustafina, excuse me.
There you go.
Get my Cyrillics right. She's the world champion, and Tim, as you tell the story, she's got some diva qualities, and divas don't like to be surprised, and she's a little surprised that Jordan Weber of the United States, an American Cup winner here a couple of years ago at the age of 13, is part of the roster, is she not? We can get into all of that a little bit later, but it sets up a pretty good USA-Russia battle, doesn't it?
Without a doubt, and a little bit earlier than people thought it would ever happen. You know, a lot of folks think that this lady right there, Jordan Weber, that she is the best gymnast in the world. That is the current world champion, Aliya Mustafina, from Russia. And like you said, she is a bit of a diva and a bit of a handful. A lot more than a bit. Had some long conversations with her coach, the head coach of the Russian team, Alexandrov. And he said, you know, it's been hard. There he is.
He calls her a diva as well.
Yeah. He said it's been hard, you know, and we really worked through a lot of things, and I don't expect it to get any easier, to be honest.
Well, and as we sat with her this week trying to get a little information and to find out just a little bit more about her and her personality, she lived up to that diva quality. She sat there with those stunning eyes and just stared us down, and there were a whole lot of das and niet and not a whole lot of elaboration on any of the information or questions that we had for her. So she knows it. She knows she's the best in the world, and she's going to prove it to everyone.
We'll be live for 2 hours, men and the women. We'll start with the men. The women will come later. We'll go live on NBC at 1 Eastern Time. We're back live in Jacksonville, Florida for the AT&T American Cup. A little while yet before the competition gets underway. Who will be in London about 510 days from now representing the United States on someone's cell phone? Now, this event, the format is a little different from years in the past, and it's because it's part of the world calendar of events?
Well, it's part of the World Cup, so actually USA Gymnastics doesn't have control over this event, and the way the athletes were chosen was purely by rank. As you look at the top-ranked gymnast in the world, Mustafina right there, so they took the top 8 gymnasts, and people that declined, then they went down the list. She's getting her number put on by one of the big stars, Zamalatikova from Russia, a double gold medalist in the Olympic Games. A tremendous floor and vaulter. You gotta love the hair, though. Look at that. I mean, we don't just got sparkles happening there. We got purple going on in there.
It's changed her color too since the World Championships. Tim, you tried to throw her a compliment.
Yeah, it kind of
didn't go over too well.
No,
like a Led Zeppelin.
The gymnasts are in the arena. Jonathan Horton of the United States. The U.S. is actually going to have 2 representatives. The second is Jake Dalton. When there are last-second injuries, you really have to go into the Americans' backyard, and that's exactly what Team USA did.
But that wasn't without controversy, because it is a World Cup event. It took a lot of cajoling, a lot of negotiations from USA Gymnastics' part, both on the men and the women, because technically the World Cup rules say that this competition was the way you get invited is the rank from the last World Championships. Jonathan Horton certainly did that. He was 3rd, but Jake Dalton wasn't on that team, nor was Jordan Weber.
And of course, you can imagine for the Russian coach, Alexandrov was quite upset to find out that there was a second American gymnast and a very good replacement in this American Cup. A little competition for Mustafina.
Allie Raceman from Christians Gymnastics in Massachusetts. She qualified 13th in the all-around. Because of some scratches, she was able to make the competition. But here is Jordan Weaver.
2009 American Cup champion. She was, what, 13 years old?
13 years old.
We all went, wow.
Yes, we did. She has had quite a couple of years, though. Battled a number of injuries. Wang Puxing from China, I tell you, she's one of my favorite gymnasts. Just absolute elegance in motion.
Well, the Chinese Federation call her the most talented in their country.
World all-around fourth place finisher, Mikola Kuksiko.
Jonathan has already won 2 of these. As the Ukrainian Kuksiko enters.
Representing Great Britain, world all-around 9th place finisher, Samuel Hunter. And representing Russia, defending all-around world champion, Aliya.
She's a trip, I'll tell you.
And that is your men's and women's field for the 2011 AT&T American Cup. The men get started, the women go backstage to stay warm, and the competition begins next live on Universal Sports. Samuel Hunter of Great Britain got a 13.733. The women enter the arena here in Jacksonville, Florida. The men leave Deduction Central.
Good job.
Okay, so one more on still rings, and this will be the final woman to go on the ball. And it's Aliya Mustafina of Russia, the world champion. And as Tim mentioned earlier in our pregame show, so to speak, she's a lot to handle.
Yes, she is. And actually, her coach told me, Alexandra, that she was not going to do her signature vault. She was going to do only a double full. But I just got word that she actually is doing the 2.5 here.
We haven't seen her train it at all.
She also is starting, from what I've heard, is too far back. You're only allowed 20 meters. And she, you know what? When things are toughest, she's toughest. If Jordan Weaver had not knocked out that ball, I don't think you would have seen that from Mustafina. The interesting thing is where she starts. She starts it a little too far back. So this was good, but no question, without a doubt, Jordan Weaver's was better.
And in just a few minutes, we'll be talking about why Mustafina is not happy with the fact that Weaver is here, let alone scoring higher than her. The fact that she's in a leotard in Jacksonville, Florida, not sitting well with the Russian.
Actually have a chance to do Good Morning Jacksonville with J.C. Phelps this morning. It was good to see her and catch up.
And what kind of things did she ask you?
She didn't ask me anything. She said, because they introduced me as an Olympic gold medalist, and they had some footage, and actually they had color footage, and I said that's very rare because most of it's in black and white.
Tim, you've used that line an awful lot. You're going to need some new material. Aliya Mustafina. She's looking up at that video, and she's looking up, and she looks like it makes her mad.
Yeah, well, I remember like it was yesterday, Svetlana Horkina getting a silver medal and going back and literally ripping it off her neck and throwing it into her bag.
Yelling at her teammates.
She wanted nothing to do with silver in Atlanta in 1996, but this team, they outperformed. That's all there is to it. They were the best on the floor that day.
She's got to be thinking, I wonder if that could be me, doesn't she?
No, without a doubt. And it could be.
And there you go. Jordan Weber with Mustafina right next to her. We're with you for a few more minutes here on Universal Sports. Then we'll switch live to NBC Sports. And one of the first things that we'll deal with there is the situation that allowed Weber to be here and represent the United States in this American Cup to the displeasure of the Russian contingent. And the United States is 1-3 right now with Alexandra Raisman. And something else that we'll tell you is the unique relationship that she has with that 1996 team. And if you do the math, you say, wait a minute, how is it possible? Andrea Joyce will have that story coming up on NBC. And you know what's funny? When you bring up Svetlana Hortina and you talk about Mustafina, aren't they sort of cut from the same mold?
They are. Exactly.
That's why she's a champion already. She has this ability. She just does not care what's happening around her. It's all about her.
Ouch.
So we are about to update our coverage with scores as we get them. Purvis gets a 14.70. Jordan Weber of the United States has the lead. She's coming up in moments on the uneven bars. And we'll also see Mustafina of Russia a little bit later. So as we get set to say goodbye on Universal Sports with the Russian in second place, we remind you that we're switching to NBC and we will update everything that happens between now and then. Ali Raisman gets a 13.9. We'll see where that fits in as the other scores come our way. For now, on Universal Sports with Tim Daggett, Elfie Schlegel, and Andrea Joyce, I'm Al Trautwig, inviting you to make the switch to NBC at the top of the hour from Jacksonville.
Competition on the men's side.
Jake's strengths are floor exercise, vaulting, the power events. That's what he's known for.
Weber got a 13.9 on the uneven bars. Of course, the Russians look at the Magnificent Seven from 1996 with knives in their eyes. They remember that as a defeat. And look at the demeanor of Mustafina. She wants to change that. We go to our New York studio for the U.S. Bank NBC Sports Report and Peter Alexander.